I guess it was inevitable with the amount of rain that was falling in and around the area in Southampton. It's a bowl, the Hampshire Bowl, the Rose Bowl, call it what you like. When there's that much water poured over a bowl, you really can't play a cricket match on it. My 11th Circle presents Cricbuzz Live just to look back and, of course, to look ahead to more cricket in this tournament. I've still got Joy Bhattacharya, Zahid Khan in the studio. Disappointing for the teams out there, for the fans. A lot of them loyally stayed around. But you'd have to say South Africa will be desperate for that more than 1 point that they got out today.
Yeah, for everyone it was certainly disappointing. It was a long wait for us also to get some match going, and imagine if we were feeling it like that, what kind of emotions players will be having, and particularly South African players, because they badly need a game and they badly need to win those 2 points rather than one, because this 1 point is certainly not going to help them. It's becoming more and more tough for them, because now they have what, 5 games to go. And with 5 games to go, even if they win all the matches, it's going to be 10 points plus this one.
11.
It's going to be 11 now. Whether 11 is going to be enough for them to go through is a question. So I'm sure they will be very disheartened with this match being called off. We hope that they get some wins under their belt, because if it doesn't happen in the next match or two, it's going to be a long World Cup for them. It gets very tough. I mean, just to get out there when there is no chance, the other teams are doing well, you have to go out there, do that every warm up, every practice session. It takes a huge toll on you mentally.
And again, if you look at it from the West Indies point of view, you never know what could have happened in a game, but they'll say, yes, this is 1 extra point. Andre Russell wasn't there, so you give him more chance to get that knee sorted. So 1 extra point?
I think so. I think not. And I'll tell you why. The reason I think so is that, you see, if you see a typical IPL, you have 8 teams. When you have 8 teams, 4, that means halfway through, 7 out of 14 gets you a chance of qualifying. You need 8 to really qualify. But when you have 10 teams and only 4 qualify, even 5.5 may not do it, 6 may do it. So both, even West Indies would have said, I need that win. I can't, and with a team like South Africa, when they're slid down 3, lost 3, I can take a quick one, these 2 points I need. Because that's the problem. You are now looking clearly at the table where 3 teams are really establishing themselves up there. That's Australia, England and India definitely up there. Mind you, New Zealand is sitting on the top, but they've got some easy results. Now the 4th spot, that's New Zealand, there's West Indies, there's Pakistan. All these guys, is going to be a logjam out there at some point in time.
Also, to add to what you just said, the West Indies would have felt, in the context of today's game, perhaps a shortened game, winning the toss, doing the right things first, and that maybe would be their more cause for this
They
point.
won the toss, they're a great 20 over side. That format suits them. So even if it had been a shorter game, 20, 25, 30 overs, it would have been right down their alley.
Certainly would have been. Zaid, from West Indies' point of view, again, as I said, Andre Russell's getting some time to fix that knee. But yes, a little bit of a disappointment. But now you can't afford to look back and say, just have to look ahead. Let's have a quick look at the West Indies schedule and see how it pans out vis-a-vis South Africa. Now remember, they've got that 1 win to start with against Pakistan. Lost to a better team in Australia, even though they'll feel that was a couple of points missed out. But then a big one coming up in Southampton against England.
See, West Indies have been doing well with the ball. There is no doubt about it. They've been getting that start. Even today, they looked good with the new ball. Created those opportunities up front. They were already in the game. So from that point of view, they will be disappointed, because they would feel that, okay, again we had the right kind of start. We would have built pressure in that middle phase, and possibly would have walked away with 2 points from this game, considering that South Africa have been demoralized in this World Cup. So they will be feeling let down from that side. But on the whole, I think they're playing good cricket. So that's something which they would like to focus on. So from that last defeat against Australia to again going out there and having, even if they had 7 overs play in this game, there were enough positives for them to go back and say that, okay, fine, nothing is lost as yet. We just have to keep on working from here, built on this, and see where things go.
And 2 positives to quickly take as we wrap up this game. One, of course, Sheldon Cottrell continuing his form, and the brief look we had at Kemar Roach.
Absolutely. Kemar Roach immediately it's telling you that, when the conditions suit, pitching the ball up and swinging it away a bit, he's a very experienced bowler. He's been great for them for a long, long time. He's never really had that extended run. Today they have the fast bowling, they can afford him to sit out, but it's great to have a guy like that on the bench. So, all in all, I'd say the West Indies would be slightly more disappointed by the result. I mean, South Africa cannot not be disappointed by the result because they just need every point they can. The West Indies also, and if you look at that table, then you'll have a look at it. They have England next, then they have Bangladesh. I think the critical game for the West Indies is the one after that, which is once against New Zealand. So if they lose to England, if they can beat Bangladesh there, and then New Zealand, that game is going to be a cracker because that's the real fourth place game out here.
Yeah, you're almost talking, we're talking about pre-quarterfinals or quarterfinals, even though this is round robin. When we've stacked up those teams under the top three, as Joy said, even though New Zealand at the moment sitting pretty, it's those New Zealand, Pakistan, West Indies. We had mentioned South Africa earlier, but not after this start. So I think that's, as you said, that'll be an absolute cracker of a game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's, we talked about great bowling performances. We've seen some hundreds in this World Cup. We've seen some stunning catches. But I think many will, agree that the moment of this tournament has to be Virat Kohli's gesture in the match against Australia. However intense the man might be, he's got the responsibility of leading a team like India. He still managed to have the grace to do what he did when the Indian fans were having a go at Stephen Smith, and it's something that both Smith and Warner have faced ever since they've reached England, mostly from the English fans, but a few over-enthusiastic Indian fans too did so. And in the middle of the game, Zahir, to walk out there with pads on, and this is what he said, of course. We've had issues in the past, we've had arguments in the field, but you don't want to see a guy feeling that heat every time he goes out to play. So just because there's so many Indian fans here, I don't want them to set a bad example because he didn't do anything to be booed, in my opinion. So I felt for him, and I'm sorry on behalf of the crowd, and he said it's just not acceptable. But for him to do that in the middle of the game, go to the crowd and say, we're playing a game of cricket.
Very good gesture. I think he's a true ambassador of the game. Because it's important to think of the game in that fashion. He's not only looking at his own performances or being a captain. He's not only thinking about his team. He's thinking about the game overall. That's something this kind of gesture shows that, because he actually went out of his way to make sure that the booing stops, and the encouragement which is deserved. Smith gets that, so that's something which was heartening to see. And with Virat, he's been taking everything to another level. So I think it's just his way of thinking about the game and understanding that he's ambassador to the game, and this gesture was just a result of that kind of thought process.
And Joy, he's the kind of person, every young kid wants to be a Virat Kohli. And when we say that, it's not about the hairstyles, the beards and everything like that. It's every action he does. So now if a young kid sees Virat doing that, can you imagine what the next generation grows up?
Absolutely. My biggest thing with Virat is just seeing him from 2008 to 2018. So seeing him that a callow young kid in the IPL, having fights with everyone, sabke paas bhid jata tha, and from there maturing to what he is. And that's a great message. I mean, his game has obviously also been refined and refined and refined. He was always at talent, but at that level everyone has talent. It's how much he's worked on it that's really made the difference. And the other thing is that when you're there, you start off as an international cricketer, which you're there. Then you're a star, and he's become a star 5 years back. Now he's moving to the next level, which is a legend of the game. And truly, if you look at his stats also today, already in one-day international cricket, he could possibly be described as at least one of the top two greatest batsmen of all time. 41 centuries, batting average of some 57, 58. He's one of the greats of the game, easily the greatest chaser. I mean, Michael Bevan and all are far behind. So what he's done is both elevate his game and elevate his stature. And exactly as Zach said, that at a particular time, you're no longer an ambassador for Indian cricket. You're an ambassador for cricket, and that's where he's made that big jump.
And I think it's almost without mentioning any brands, there's an automobile ad doing the rounds which shows a couple of brash young guys who see another car overtake him. They're saying, our car's bigger, our car's faster. That's almost Virat Kohli from 2008. And then after a moment he says, no, we are bigger than this. We are bigger than the game almost. And that's Virat Kohli with that gesture.
Well, absolutely spot on. I think, and it's good to see that he's taken the mantle of cricket now in his hand. It's not only about going out there, scoring runs, winning matches for India. He's looking at far beyond that, and that is a great sign. I think, for him to be a true leader. I think, it's about always pushing that bar higher and higher. We've seen him push that bar with cricket. We've seen him push that bar in terms of how he's been approaching and how he's matured as a cricketer. But I think, this is something, a great thing to witness, that he's not only going to stop there, he's going to take things even further. So it's all in all, it's exciting times for us to see, where it takes things now from here, because something like this is certainly a great sign for cricket in general, because he's thinking about the game, he's thinking about how each and every, like, be it fans or the players, how that distance can be closed or shortened, and how there is a better understanding from both the sides, like, players who are playing cricket, playing their heart out there on the field, and playing hard cricket, but how they are as human beings. So yes, we're going to play hard on the field, we're going to have our battles, we're going to have a bit of verbals, which I'm sure, even if Virat tries to go away from that, he will not be able to do it. So that's something which is on the field, but outside of that, we respect each other. We have the other side as well, which is to be respected by the fans as well, and being supported by the fans as well in that fashion.
Yeah, so I mean, just I was thinking that the last person who's made this transition and done it beautifully over the last 3, 4, 5 years, especially last year's career, if you see, is Kumar Sangakkara. Sangakkara has just done that, from becoming a Sri Lankan great to becoming an ambassador for the game, to an ambassador for goodwill. Today he's, the chairman of the MCC, he's a head of the MCC. I mean, the way he's done it, exactly, I see Virat's journey again, and from there, getting beyond the narrow national boundary to being an ambassador for a whole sport.
And a good parallel, because he was also someone who had a chirp behind the stumps.
Yes.
He's also someone who played the game very hard.
Yes, loved to talk behind the stumps. He was as hard as well. So it's wonderful to see. And I think Virat's made the same transition.
Absolutely. And you can absolutely say that you could enjoy the hundreds that come all the time. But a statutory warning here, if you've been watching Virat Kohli doing that, yes, you can try this at home. That's the example to follow. Let's move on to what's coming up next in terms of cricket, and we hope there's lots of rain around. We hope it stays away from Bristol, because that's where the next game takes place, and that's going to be Bangladesh against Sri Lanka. And what a cracker of a contest it is. Sri Lanka, of course, struggled early on. They've got personnel, they've got an inexperienced captain. Bangladesh playing fabulous cricket. They came up against a better English side, but playing absolutely fantastic cricket. So that should be a mouth-watering contest, Joy.
No, absolutely. And they're last year or so, they are 2-2. I mean, there was a time when a Bangladesh-Sri Lanka match 5 years back would have been certainty 4-1. Maybe if it's in Bangladesh, there might be a bit of a fight, but anywhere else in the world, you wouldn't even think of it as an encounter that Sri Lanka would be worried about. Today, you would have to say that Bangladesh go in as slight favourites. May not be huge favourites, but as slight favourites. Solid. See, the important thing is the solid core. So Mushfiqur, you have you have Shakib Al Hasan, you have the Tamim Iqbal and Mashrafe. That core, and then you take Shomo Sharkar, Mohammedullah, 6, 7, 8 guys who've been playing a long time. Look at the Sri Lankans. Other than Angelo Matthews, to a certain extent, Karunaratne, they don't have guys who've been playing together for a long time with the team. And I think that's telling.
And it starts with the captain. I mean, where's Mashrafe, who's been leading for so long? He might have lots of strapping on his knees and whatnot, but when you have that experience coming up against a guy who's captained only for a handful of games, it tells.
There's no doubt about it. Mashrafe is a senior campaigner, and he's got a good feel of the game. And I like to see him captain the side. Like, he's got that idea. He'll rotate his bowlers, and Bangladesh has been consistent in this World Cup. So that's something. When you looking at these two teams, you would say that Bangladesh is going to be favourite going in tomorrow. If there is no rain around, I'm sure Bangladesh, what they've been doing consistently in this tournament, which is putting runs on board and having enough resources for Mashrafe to maneuver his troop in terms of bowling and getting the result which they want, and they've showed it with beating South Africa. So Tomorrow, I think Sri Lanka has a lot of work to do in terms of getting the momentum going. They can do it. There is no doubt about it. They've shown that sign against Afghanistan. By the start they got, though it was patchy. So it's just that they couldn't finish. They laid the platform, they laid the foundation, but couldn't really build from that. So that's something which they'll have to be focused on. That they cannot relax. That's something which is the key message for Sri Lanka as far as tomorrow's game is concerned. Make sure that that whatever overs are there in the game, you stay focused, you stay on the job, you put your head down, get the job done, and then move forward. So that's something which is important from Sri Lanka's point of view. But all in all, it's going to be a good contest because both the teams will be wanting to get going in this tournament in a strong way.
One word I'm going to pick up from what Zahir Khan said is consistency, and there's no better example than consistency than not changing your team over the course of a couple of games to start the tournament, and that's what they've done. They have not really needed to go to their reserve resources, and all of whom, mind you, are people who'd walk into the side, and that just shows the strength of the side.
No, this is a good Bangladesh team. This is a solid Bangladesh team. I think Saifuddin had one good match and then after that he tailed away a bit. I mean, that is the only worry that I had.
So Rubel possibly?
Yeah, he's the only guy who I look at that side and say that, you know what, they might look at him and say, wonder what is the thing. But otherwise, it's a very solid side and the guys know, each and every one of these guys know what they have to do. Remember, if Bangladesh beats Sri Lanka tomorrow, then they enter that sort of second level of teams that we're talking about, New Zealand, Pakistan, West Indies. Then they enter that area where they, that sort of mid-level team. And I think they'll be dangerous then because, once they've won one more, it'll be this thing. If Sri Lanka wins, it'll be interesting because that's going to be the start of their comeback. But the odds look against them right now.
And you talk about, blows to teams, literally and otherwise. South Africa have had a few problems, but for Sri Lanka, they've one big bright spark so far. Nuwan Pradeep injured his hand on Sunday and therefore he's ruled out for the game. So it's not
That's
a great
big one. Nuwan is gone?
Gone for tomorrow's game.
So he's someone who would have used the conditions well for sure because he's got that good seam positioning for conditions. If the conditions are overcast, then he would have certainly extracted a lot of help from the wicket. But otherwise, they have to find that similar kind of role being played by someone else. It's important. It's important that they go in with that kind of a mindset of not relaxing because they have the experience of Lasith Malinga as well in that bowling department. Lakmal has looked off colour, so he'll have to step up now because if there is a lot of rain around in that area, then obviously we are talking about playing that extra seamer, which I'm sure Bangladesh will also have to do it. But more the reason Sri Lanka will have to look for that kind of option in their squad. Angelo Matthews once again needs to come to the party along with Kushal Mendis. I think these two players from Sri Lanka's point of view in terms of batting, but they're getting the start. The captain and Kushal Perera has been giving them the kind of start which they require. Kushal Perera has looked good with his approach and intent in the tournament so far. So that's something which you would expect them to continue with. But in the middle phase, they need that partnership. Then you have that power of Thisara Perera at the back end, which if the platform is set, you've seen with many teams, if the platform is set, then your power hitters come into play. But if your power hitters have to alter their role and come in early and play the different kind of role where they have to build their innings, then you are making it that much difficult for them to get going. But when the bowlers are on back foot, your power hitters are in, that's the time you actually go that 25-30 runs above par, or you get those extra runs which we've always seen in especially 50-over cricket. So that's something which they'll have to put their head around.
But changes to the team because Jeevan Mendes was playing initially, then Nuwan Pradeep came in, performed brilliantly. Now there's no Nuwan Pradeep, so do they go with that extra batting option with Avishka Fernando or go back to Jeevan Mendes and his experience?
I actually like, if you're a team which is not much is happening, which right now Sri Lanka looks like a team not much is happening, Avishka Fernando is, they say, the next big guy in Sri Lankan cricket. He's very exciting, he's opening batsman, he can hit. More important than anything else, I believe when teams are down, especially, and so many what do people do? They change their dress, they change something. They need to change something, and maybe that's the thing. Bring in a new spark. Maybe something will happen. He'll get a few early runs. They need a spark for the team. So I'd bring in a young kid and say, "Yaar, dekhte hain kya hota hai."
And also remember, they have the experience of knowing every little puddle around Bristol because they know they were around for a washout. So they'll have that advantage of saying, Bangladesh, you weren't around here. We know the cornerstone of this ground, as it were. So, they've been there for a few days, maybe in wet conditions, but they'll be feeling a little more familiar with.
I mean, outfield is not going to help a lot.
I know it's not. I'm just trying to throw in an X factor for them. How are they going to find a way?
But the fact that Neon Pradeep has got injured, that means that there was a practice session. So they have got some kind of practice out there on that ground. So that should help. Let's see how it goes tomorrow. I hope the weather gods are in favor of cricket tomorrow. So that will be that will be the most important thing.
Yeah, Gloucestershire County have some nice indoor nets in there. Those flats that we see over there, lots of people play cricket in the flats underneath over there. We saw the last time India was there, they were playing a little cricket over there because again, there was a bit of a washout. But a lot of you tried to pick your teams today. Unfortunately, it was not going to be. So those teams are rendered null and void. But don't worry. We've got a new game every single time, and this is what you can do. Get to my11circle.com, get the app downloaded. Almost every one of you has it already, just in case you don't. And the match to pick for tomorrow is, of course, Bangladesh against Sri Lanka. And Dada is going to be up early picking his team and trying to see who those X factors are going to be. Remember, no one, Pradeep? So don't put him in there, even though he was man of the match the last time around. And he also was our My 11 Circle MVP with the most number of points, which we could not get for today's game. Well, we've also had our question that we threw at you. Come rain or shine, the one man who is never given an opportunity to rest is Joy Bhattacharya. You've got to keep those questions coming.
Yep, this was, I think they've knocked it back. I believe the first answer came about 35 seconds after I put it on air. But it's an interesting one nevertheless. And the question was, many brothers have played Test cricket together, we know. But who are the last set of brothers to have made their Test debuts together? And the answer is Ben and Adam Hollyoake versus Australia in 1997. They had both, I think Adam had played one-day cricket before, then Ben played it later. But they made their Test debuts together. They didn't make much of it after that. And of course, Adam tragically passed away after that, but they were the last brothers to play together, to make their debuts together. Ben passed away, sorry, my apologies.
In a road accident.
Yeah, but Adam was one
Adelaide.
of those.
Was it in Adelaide?
I think it was in
Perth. It was Perth.
Perth.
But Adam was one of those cricketers when England went through that phase of bits and pieces players. Matthew Fleming and so many other names who came to mind after New Zealand did it.
He was quite a personality, and I met him, and I remember he was considering coming back to play in the IPL, and he was searching for a team who would take him in the IPL. And then when the IPL didn't happen, he decided to become mixed martial arts fighter.
Oh.
And he fought a game, he fought a draw in a mixed martial arts tournament. Then I think he said, my body can't take it anymore, so he's gone back to, coaching. He coaches a lot in Afghanistan. And I think he helps England with their fielding as well. So, interesting character.
Yeah. Yes, certainly is. And I mean, imagine, when we talk about all the India-Pakistan battles in Sharjah, one of those exceptions to it in history was Adam Hollyoake leading a team to win with all these teams around there in Sharjah. By the way, we do have a winner from this. So, who is our winner in 35 seconds flat for this Ben and Adam Hollyoake answer? It's Adhit. Is that his phone number? @Adhit 682343553. That's not a date of birth.
But that's not enough numbers to, unless it's a landline.
Unless it's a landline, he's left his area code out. So if you want to try calling that, we don't know where he's from, so try calling that number. But it's been an unfortunate washout, but also a day when we talked briefly about AB de Villiers. We talked about Virat Kohli's wonderful gesture, but I think what everyone will still be looking back at is a wonderful career from Yuvraj Singh Zahir. You shared stories ahead of us. Any one final memory you want to throw?
6 sixes. I mean, when you're talking about UV, I think any time you're talking about UV, those 6 sixes you cannot forget. I think.
So we don't want to know how powerful his hitting was.
No, so I'm coming to the story. I'm coming to the story.
All right.
So I think leading up to that World Cup, we were playing in England. So the test match was going on, and UV was part of that squad, wasn't getting an opportunity to play. But all he was doing was just spending enough time in the gym, spending enough time in the nets, doing those practice sessions, and I think all that time which he spent there in England during that Test series paid off when he went to South Africa. You know, he was just very strong physically. He was top of his fitness, hitting the ball like anything, and those reflexes also matter, isn't it? And that power which you saw, I think it was treat to watch him in that 2007 World Cup. The way he was hitting the ball out of the park, and the kind of timing and the sheer power. The lead up to that was England. Not only in terms of how he prepared, also how he was in the just the frame of mind. You know, the state of mind is also very important. So England is a place where you can actually train hard, work hard, and then you go out there and party hard. So that's how we would prepare. So I'm just putting in a nutshell that, you know, he was doing all those things on repeat, and that's something which paid off in 2007.
So who do you attribute it more to? Dimitri Mascarenhas, Andrew Flintoff, or Stuart Broad?
Well, I think Dimitri Mascarenhas put that thought in his head that, oh, it's possible. So that's something which he always talks about in a very fun way. But he was like, okay, you know, if someone can hit it, if Dimitri can hit it, then I'm far better than Dimitri.
And then Freddie,
sure.
of course, must have reminded him of something which for years we cannot say on family shows.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Yuvi's a wrong man to be reminded of things. I mean, as England found out to their cost that day.
Absolutely. The only person we've not heard from is Stuart Broad. One day we want a tribute from Stuart Broad about Yuvraj.
He's put up a lovely Instagram post today.
A post today, yeah.
We must see that. Must see that. That's the one I missed out on preparing for this final show. But great memories, and I think it's a career that we can continue to celebrate. And thank you, Joy. Thank you, Zahir Khan.
Raja.
Thank you, Yuvi. That's what we also have to say on behalf of all of us at My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. We know it's a new innings that's starting, and it's an innings that's going to be as colourful and as bright as it always has been for Yuvraj Singh. We'll keep focusing on the cricket here, and we'll bring you much more, hopefully much drier cricket when it comes to Bangladesh taking on Sri Lanka from the West Country in England, from Bristol. Until then, from all of us on My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live, it's goodbye.